everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptic. I'm joined tonight by Mr. Wendell Hurricane Burris from the Arkansas Boys. Blake just informed me a minute ago that he's having technical difficulties and he can't get on. He's hoping to join us here in just a few minutes, but we'll try to carry on without him. Uh, Again, welcome everyone. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. And as Blake always says, just remember to hit that like button, subscribe button, and let us know in the comments what you think. Wendell, good evening, buddy.
Good evening.
Welcome to the show, man.
Oh,
You were telling me something here before we started that you were you had some team members going out here. What, tomorrow?
yeah, they're gonna be up near Turner's Bend and over by OARK here in Arkansas, and it's a branch off of our Arkansas Bigfoot cartel, and they call themselves the Arkansas Bigfoot Hunting Club, which actually we just let them take new team members and train them and have them work out. And Thomas sees how good they do. And then in December we're going to have the them and the really hunting Bigfoot team and the Arkansas Bigfoot cartel join together. It'd be at least three different teams there that's going to focus on different research deals and trying to capture everything from photographic evidence to tracks and be able to cast them real good fresh tracks that we can get like overnight and different stuff like that. So there's going to be at least three different teams that's going to be working there, and it'll probably be around 15 people that we're thinking that'll be there that weekend in December. But you always got to have somebody that when you got dealing with new peoples, and that's a good thing we got Thomas. He's going to kind of weed them out and see what they know and see what he can teach them and see who we need to bring with us. That's what he's doing.
Right. We run into the same thing up here. Folks, as I was telling Wendell a few minutes ago before the show started, Blake and I went up this past week up to Murray County and here in Georgia and done some scouting out up on the foot of Grassy Mountain. Found some interesting stuff while we was up there. We're planning on we're going to wait till all the leaves and stuff die back a little more, and we're planning on going up and doing a weekend investigation. And as soon as we do that, of course, we'll have our video cameras, and we're actually going to put out some trail cams and stuff and see what kind of evidence we can catch, and we'll air that on the show once we get that done. And Wendell, I invite you, buddy, once y'all gather up some evidence down there in December, and you want to come back and share it with us, buddy, just give me a shout, and we'll have you back on, and you can let the people out in Arkansas know what's going on.
That'd be great. The actual Arkansas boys, all this month of October, we do a actual haunted house that we run anywhere from 100 to 300 people a night, depending on what night. And that's all this Bigfoot activity that we go to and everything. That's how we pay for it.
Oh, okay, okay.
It just worked out that way. That's our website's called the Folklore Haunted Slaughterhouse, and from the Arkansas boys deal going down to Fout, and that's how we ended up making our page, and that's the name of the haunted house. And last year we was the #1 haunted house in the state, but the two that had been number one was closed because of the COVID deal. But
Right.
eh, all the all the activity going out and searching and everything, you got to have money to do it. So it just lucked out. This is the way we pay for our research, is to have the haunted house and have people come through. $8 a head, and we run anywhere from, like I said, 100 to 300 a night. Depends on which night and which weekend of the October. So that's why we don't. October is usually the best time to actually get out and do your research, because it's cooling off. They're moving, looking. The leaves are falling off, and that's when we used to do our research. But unfortunately, somehow you got to pay the bills. That's why the actual Arkansas Boys takes off the month of October, and we try to do everything end of November, first part of December. And that's why we're fortunate to have these other team that goes out and trains people and finds areas that we need to go research at. And when they say, yeah, this is a hot place, that's where we go.
Right. And yeah, and you know, I'd like to discuss this a little further as far as you talking about yeah, doing the haunted houses to make money. You know, folks that's listening to the broadcast tonight, whether you realize it or not, myself, Wendell, his group, basically all the researchers that does this, we we do this on our own dime. You know, it's money that we take out of our pockets, but it's something, you know, and I'm sure Wendell will agree. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Like I told everyone before, you know, I had my first encounter back in 1981 with one of these creatures, and I've had you know, quite a few encounters since then. And you know, I'm not out there to prove to anybody that they actually exist. I know they exist. The only thing I'm here to prove is to tell people, you know, that these creatures are out there, and to try to educate them on it. What's your thoughts on that, Wendell?
Right. It's just we're just researching to get evidence. We know they exist. We've seen them. It's just somebody eventually is going capture the right evidence, a sample, or and the world's going to get out there. Nobody will be able to cover it up. A lot of people say this government cover up and everything. I believe that myself, but uh, whether there is or not, eventually there's going to be a close picture taken, and the evidence, and that's what we're trying to research for. And we get a lot of stuff, but it just don't meet our criteria as what we're going to do. So we're still looking for that definitive photograph up close, or hair sample, or video, or and that's why we're out there still, is just to show that they do exist.
Right. Well, you know, I've had encounters with these things. I don't know about as far as the encounters that you've had, Wendell, but you know, Blake and I have had encounters out in the woods with these things where they can be sometimes, you know, mundane, just creatures that'll kind of let you uh, get in the woods with them and not really bother you. And then other times we've had encounters where they actually get nasty with you. You know, rocks thrown. We've been bluff charged. We've had all kind of stuff happen that it's you know, it's unreal. And I've talked to many people on this show, on other shows that I've been on, that have told me, you know, they've had aggressive encounters with these creatures. And that's one thing that I don't know why the government wants to cover this up, because of the fact, you know, these creatures do exist. I know they're there. You know they're there. Uh, but you know, there's a lot of people that because of the government saying that they're not real, that will go out into the woods and encounter these creatures and not know what to do. And, it could lead to someone getting hurt bad or somebody getting killed because of it. And that's something I don't understand myself.
Right. You never know when an encounter go bad, and usually it's right at the we being out there. It's when you least expect it. That's why you ain't got nothing there to capture anything or video anything or do anything. Uh, while there people's out in certain areas, uh, they need to be looking and prepared. People don't know that they're there and they're just out for a good time, and then they run into something they shouldn't don't need to be around. Uh, Usually it's just like you said, it just a bluff charge, or they get their eyes open that hey, there's something here. But there's a lot of cases out there that the 411, the missing persons, possibly that was the Bigfoot. Now there's a lot of things out there that it could have been besides the Bigfoot, but everybody when they're out and about, everything ain't always about fun. You need to have some kind of protection or some kind of plan. If you run into something that means you harm, you need to be able to defend yourself.
Right, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. Up here in North Georgia, not only have we got the Sasquatch to deal with, um, of course, we have plenty of wild hogs. I don't know about y'all down in Arkansas, but this area up here, man, is becoming gross with wild hog, and that's the biggest thing that worries me when I'm out there doing my investigations is
Yep.
actually running into wild hogs, or this time of year, running into uh, mother bears or mama bears with cubs.
Yep.
That's another thing, up here in Georgia you have to worry about. Yeah, we're probably one of the leading states for black bear encounters up here, other than Great Smoky Mountains. I know they're really populated with them up in that area, but at last count I had down here, I had a brother-in-law that worked for years with Federal Forestry Service here in Georgia, and he told me that just on Grassy Mountain, which is where the Cuda Wilderness is located. Cuda Wilderness encompasses about 48,000 acres, wilderness area where all you can do is hike into the area, and there's no foot travel, no. I think maybe there's a couple of trails they let you take horses in on, but other than that, it is foot travel, and we've actually had a couple of Bigfoot encounters up there in that area, but up there is the black bear and the wild hogs you have to worry about. That's two of the biggest things. Of course, you have bobcats in this area. You also have we have an overabundance of coyotes now in this area up here that we have to contend with. But mainly, I do. Yeah, I agree with you, Wendell. I carry protection every time I go to the woods. I'll take. I've got a little 38 that I carry, and a lot of times, you might run into something that even a 38's not going to stop.
Right. So have y'all got any investigation scheduled around, or that's that one you was talking about
Well,
early?
we've got one planned for about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks from now. We're gonna wait till the excuse me, we're gonna wait till the leaves get off if you're good. Uh, and then that area in Murray County, we got one scheduled up there, and then I've got a lady over in Gilmer County that's had some encounters happen on her farm over there. She was actually chased out of a barn over there by some big hairy critter, is what she called it. She said it looked like a big ugly man in gorilla suits, what she told me, and so we're planning on in probably mid-November going over there and checking that out. Uh, we're just trying to stay safe. Let snakes go in. We want to keep our team members where they won't get hurt doing the encounters.
Right. You saying talking about November? That reminded me. Right before Thanksgiving, we're going back up to the Sycamore National Forest here, and it's kind of north central Arkansas, where we investigated 2 years ago. And what we're going to do there is just recheck and see if there's different signs and everything, and plan an investigation if there is still signs there for the spring of next year. That's where we'll be doing it, maybe in March.
Oh, okay. So Wendell down there, you're talking about having the encounters and all. Have y'all ever had a full blown encounter where y'all had them actually throw rocks and all kind of crazy stuff that they do?
Oh yeah, yeah. We've had I almost fist size rocks thrown at us and everything, and we had at Sycamore is where we had a team member. At that time, he didn't believe in Bigfoot, but he does now. One of them, as he went up onto a creek bank, it's actually they call it a river there, but it was dry at the time we was there, so I'd call it a big creek. But anyway, when he went up on that bank there, we had heard two on the opposite side, so they was going on that side and gonna try to move around them. Well, when he got to the top of that bank, there was two of them there that just met him face to face, and our other team member pulled Austin was his name back off the bank there, kept him from the one almost taking his head off. It slapped at him, so he saw two of them within 4 or 5 feet of him. So he definitely believes in Bigfoot now. So that's as close as any member of our team has had an encounter with it. And both of them, he's roughly my size, 6'3", 6'4", something like that. And he said they were the same height as him, but they were hunched over when the one slapped at him. So it could have been close to 7 foot. But what it was so impressive to him was how wide it was. He said it almost made two of him as the width across the shoulder. So that's impressive there. But yeah,
That's a
we've
big
had
deal.
uh, all kinds of bluff charges where they shake the trees and run right up into a thicket, and these thickets as thick as can be, but it just run right through them like they're nothing. I mean, if you ever tried to go through a sawbriar thicket, that's hard to do, even with coveralls and everything. And we've had them just run right through them like they're nothing. So
Oh yeah, yeah, and we have too. And I'm gonna tell you something, folks. Where you know what Wendell's talking about? Sawbriars, big old jagged briars that grow on big long vines. We have them in the North Georgia area up here. I used to coon hunt for years and years here in Georgia, and yeah, believe me, I've encountered them, Wendell, where they'd tired. I've actually had my pants legs ripped, uh, shirts and everything else trying to go through these things, and come home look like you've been run through a sorghum mill or something, and it yeah, those things get rough, and it amazes me that these creatures, as you say, can wade through them, and it's like nothing to them.
yeah,
You were talking a few minutes ago about the proof on these creatures. You know, everybody that I've talked to up in this area, they say, well, and the only way we're going to get definitive proof that these creatures really exist is if someone kills one and puts a body out there for science to cut up. Uh, what's your thoughts on that, Wendell?
Well, as our three different teams, we've talked about that, and in Arkansas, you actually can't go out and kill one because it's a I don't want to say if it's an unknown species, you're not supposed to kill one. So technically, Bigfoot would be an unknown species, so it's protected. Um, Normally, like I said, 95% of the time, they're they end up. I don't want to say exactly peaceful, but they're just out rummaging around to survive. They may dig through your trash. You may have an encounter. You may have a bluff charge because you're in the wrong spot, and they're just letting you know you're not to be there. Now, every once in a while, you find one that's a loner that's just mean and outright. If say we is allowed to shoot one or get one, a specimen, a body, that's what we'd look for. One that is a definite threat to society, their society and our society, and that happens with our
So they
population. We have a death row,
right. So
so they would be able to. As far as we would look for one that is killing all the animals, breaking into people's house. We have an area that's called Devil's Den, and we've had since 1946, 47. There's like 8 people that's went missing in this area, and they've found their bodies later. That's all been pulled apart and everything. If that was an occasion where either one or a group is doing something like that, yes, I would say that would be the one that you would get your specimen from. But
right, and that's my feelings. As you say, a rogue squatch, one that is basically a menace to both the Sasquatch population and the human population. That would be the only
right,
way that I would actually uh, that I myself or any of my team members would consider pulling the trigger on one. Just
right,
to go out here and kill one of these creatures so science could cut it up, I don't believe in that.
I don't either. I mean, they got the right to live just same as we got the right to live. Uh, and just to go out to shoot something for fun, I'm not into that. Believe that either. Uh, I was raised old school, and my dad taught me, my grandpa taught me, don't shoot nothing unless you're willing to eat it. And that's all the way down to like a BB gun. Right? I got in trouble for shooting a blue jay, and my grandpa was like, "Yeah, you're going to eat that." And I was like, he didn't make me eat it, but it made a impression on me that they got the right to live just the same as you do.
Right, right. Femur of bobcats just text in as long as we don't infringe with each other's rights to live, and that's basically the way I feel about it. But we've had encounters up here where with these things where I think we've actually run in on like maybe a mother and a young baby, whatever you want to call them, and we've had charges, we've had rocks, I mean big rocks thrown at us, trees pushed over, tree limbs broke, them screaming at us. And I think that's one thing that people need to be aware of if they go into the woods, and especially because it's just like a bear or any other type animal. If you encounter one of those things that's got a young one around where they're at, uh, hey, there's no telling what they'll do to you.
Right. Yeah, that no telling. I mean, because they're wanting you to get away from their young one and everything. You brought that up over at Ball Knob. We went this last weekend to a lady's house, and it's a fairly decent sized city. Say 5,000, something like that, here in Arkansas. But she
Right.
lives on the outskirts of it, and there's a creek that runs right along her property and a railroad track. And she's been seeing all kinds of animals and everything out there. But she'd been seeing uh, something small out there walking around. And well, we went over there and looked, and we actually found, I'd say, uh, if it was a small boy, it'd be around 10 or 11-year old, but wider tracks out there along this creek and this train tracks. And it goes right into the middle. I was talking about them sawbriars, and it happened to be in a muddy spot, and you could see the tracks perfect. I'm leaning to say that she's got a small Sasquatch that's around there, and the reason I say that, there's all kinds of food source there, and like maybe the big ones are going up and down this creek or the train track traveling, and they're coming back and picking this up because she sees it on different occasions and has seen things there. So I don't know. We're going to go back and do more investigations. Possibly it could be a 10 or 11-year old, but it's always right, dusky dark and stuff like this. And I'm like, they ain't no, it's too far for her to, all she can tell is the outline and shape and it moving around, you know. And I told her, once the leaves all gets off and cooler weather to where we know there ain't nobody going to be out there or anything, that's, we'll go over and maybe do a night investigation there. That'd be interesting, but that'd probably be like in January or middle of February. And it was convincing enough to me that she's got something there that's going on for to warrant a follow up investigation. So we're going to go back and check on that. But what's your
You
thoughts
know,
on young ones like that? Do you think they would leave them and then go foraging all day long, or do you think they take them with them all the time?
well, now my thoughts on that is, uh, Blake, my partner that's on the show with me, now he had an encounter down at Lake Altoona back in 2011. He actually saw a family group together, a large male, a female, and just a small one. But now all three of these were at the edge of the lake when he saw them, whether they were down there watering or feeding on fish. We have found in this area that these freshwater mussel, I know you know what I'm talking about, clam shell. Uh, we found in this area up here that those things love those. Matter of fact, the first one that I ever encountered back in 1981, that's what it was doing. It was on the creek, right on the edge of the sandbar. And when I got back up before this thing had taken off at, got the boat back up there, uh, that's what it had been doing. It had been uh, knelt down right there at the edge of the water, and it had been eating these freshwater mussels and had a stack probably that high up, stacked up there where it's
Hmm.
been eating these things at. And
Right.
but as far as leaving smaller ones, like that, and that's something we don't know how rapid these creatures grow. You know, we don't know exactly what the growth rate is on these creatures. So, as far as giving them, a definite year, amount of years or number of years to a size comparison, as I say, I don't, I don't know, and anyone else don't know exactly what the growth rate on these animals are. Uh, you know, um, but I do believe that older juveniles, I do believe that they will uh, go off and let them play in an area that they feel that they're secure in, and
Right.
uh, and forage for food, and then come back and get them, just like a bear will do. A bear will take older cubs and leave them to themselves, or they may just be out, just leave them and let them forage around to see if they can survive, on
I
their
think
own.
I think that's what's going on here. This one would be about the size of a 10 or 11 year old boy, but just slightly wider track at the where the toes and everything is. So anyway, there's enough evidence. We're gonna go back there and check it out more for thorough and bring in about 5 guys from the team and see what all we can find. And we're actually gonna go up and down that creek. It's about a 5 mile area down through there that we can go. That there's nobody lives or nothing. That's just the back of the different people's
Right?
property. So that would be a perfect area for it to move in and out around there. So
Yeah, that could be what they're doing. They could be, leaving it and just checking back in on it periodically. I'm not down, as far as saying that they walk off and leave these uh, younger juveniles unattended completely. I don't believe they do that. I think
right,
that I think that you'll find that when you do go down there and do an investigation, that even though this juvenile is in a certain area by itself, that I'll guarantee you there's an older one that is in that area summers keeping a pretty close eye on the juvenile.
right. Within hearing distance or something like that, if they yell, it'd be there. You'd be in trouble then, though.
Yeah, most definitely. Barry brought up Barry with praying and squashing brought up a good point here. Reading historical accounts, especially among the Native Americans, there are many accounts of them abducting female humans and even breeding with them. However, this practice seems to have stopped or stopped being reported. And he says, "What's our thoughts on that?"
I think a lot of it's just stopped being reported. A lot of people just looks at the I would say the best part of them and want to looking for a word here, but anyway, make them more friendly than they are. I mean, they're out there surviving, and if they're alone by themselves, especially like we was talking about that rogue one that's been kicked out of a group or whatever, uh, they look at life as needs, and unfortunately, that's a need. So they possibly, if they catch a chance, they'll take somebody, and they'll never be seen again. That's just it.
And yeah, I mean, and that's the bad part about all of this. People do look at these animals as being just big friendly teddy bears out there running around through the woods. I'm here to tell you, uh, they're not friendly teddy bears out there running around through the woods.
Nope.
Not the encounters I've had with them. A lot of times these creatures have survived for hundreds of years. Uh, my grandfather, as I've told everybody, was full-blooded Cherokee Indian, raised up in North Carolina, Fontaine, North Carolina, in that area up in there, and on over in Cherokee. And even though they looked at these creatures as being, as he said, watchers of the mountains, uh, you know, he always made a specific point to tell me that if I ever encountered anything like that in the woods, to get out of the area as quick as I could get out of there. You know, these creatures are out there. They're trying to survive just like we survive. I think they've taken a completely different turn as far as evolution's concerned, as what our human species has taken. Uh, I think they enjoy living the way they live. That's the only way they know how to live. But yet, you know, they survive really a lot better. They survive off the land. They survive a lot better than what you or I do, Wendell, working a 9 to 5 job and coming
Yep,
home every day.
yep, and they're a lot tougher and more physical because they're out there every day and they get from point A to point B. They got to walk or run, so their body is more physically fit, more healthy to a certain extent. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, yeah, we're healthy, but do away with the antibiotics and do away with all the medical stuff. How healthy are we? I'm just saying their bodies used to being out there in the conditions to where ours ain't. Uh, and like I said, it's just a life struggle, and that's what they look at everything from is where am I going to get my food? Uh, where's shelter? Where I mean, they're looking at what it takes to survive from day to day, and just like us, if they're lonely, they liable to pick up somebody to talk to them, or they might not. I mean, you go with a bear situation. People has befriended a bear. Look at Grizzly Adams, the other big old bear, and it was peaceful. But you got photographers that's went out there and took pictures of bears too for years, but then they got ate by a bear. It's just which one you run into.
Well, yeah, it's
Just
just like the guy. You know, you bring that subject up. That's like the guy in Alaska a few years back that he had hundreds and hundreds of encounters with grizzlies up in Alaska. And what happened? You know, one day he had an encounter that the bear ate him. So
mm-hmm.
you know,
it's it's not it's down to the individual case. Just because this Sasquatch avoids you as much as possible, may be curious, wants to watch, uh, but he wants to avoid you as much as possible and just go about his daily business. The next one might not be that way.
that's
That's how
exactly
life.
right. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up a good point there. Uh, Wendell just hit on as far as these animals being curious. You know, a lot of people go out in the woods. They talk to their friends about maybe an encounter that one of their friends has had with one of these creatures, and they think, oh well, you know, I'm gonna go out and see if I can encounter one of these things. Well, you know, these creatures are very very curious, and it's just like uh, when you go out there, you're in their home. You're not, excuse me, you're not in your home anymore.
Right.
When you're out there in the outdoors, you're in their home. It's like you walking in, like somebody walking into your front door. You're gonna know when somebody comes in your front door, you're there at the house, and that's the same way with these creatures. When you go in the woods, they're gonna know you're there. And as Wendell said, they are a very curious creature. They are gonna come and they're gonna check you out. Now, say whether they say you're actually gonna see one of them, you know, I can't say that because these creatures are one of the most intelligent creatures, in my opinion, that walks on 2 legs as far as being able to know that a human is in the woods with them, know where they're at, know what they're doing, uh, you know, and basically they're going to know it the whole time you're there, and they're going to know when you leave. And if they don't want you there, you're going to know it.
That's right. And
They're going to make it. Go
the
ahead, Wendell.
majority of the time, if you see them, it's because they want you to see them, and they're won't letting you know you need to leave the area or something like that. Now, some of the sightings has happened like you step out of a car, you starter. They might have knew you was there, but they didn't expect you to step out of the car, and you're right by. They was hiding there in the thicket, and they stand up. Or like if you walk out somewhere by water that they've been in, they might not smell you because they've been in all the water, or you've been in the water, and that sighting just happened. So they're going to get out of there, or you're going to run from being scared, or then that's when it comes into bluff charges and stuff like that. They're going to let you know that you shouldn't be here and get out of here.
You know, and that's the whole thing about it. People think they're gonna go out there and just walk up in the woods and see one of these creatures. No, that's not gonna happen. You know, I'm gonna tell you right now. If you think you're gonna crawl out of your car and you're gonna walk out in the
Not
woods,
from my
go ahead there.
not from my experience. I was just gonna say, not from my experience. It's really hard to have an encounter with one if you're looking to have one, or if you're searching for one. Now, like I said, the accidental encounters can happen pretty often, but the chances of you individually when you're out there having that encounter is very slim. It's random, and it just occurs, you know.
Chuck Turner just wrote, Rick, I've experienced my perfect encounter to you. 55 miles per hour, and the creature is about 200 yards off the road in a freshly cut field. That's yeah, that would be the perfect encounter.
Yeah, that the first time that I actually saw one, or saw whatever this was about 100 to 150 yards, and that was at Fout, and that was after it run through a 4-strand barbed wire fence and was going across the field. So I can definitely, and we just happened to drive up on that, so I can definitely relate to that kind of encounter.
Let me
Now,
want to ask you. I'd like to ask you. I'd like to touch on this point. What What are your thoughts, buddy, on people that have what they have experienced and what they call mind speak, or uh, running into these creatures that cloak on you, things of that nature? What's your opinion on that?
well, the mind speak, I think, is more back to the infrasound deal. Their body is receiving them, that sound wave, and it's confusing their mind. That's just my personal opinion. Uh, as far as the cloaking, everything else, if it's a physically in this world, can't cloak, can't do none of that. The only way that would be is if uh, some of the Sasquatch, or whatever it is either the back to the Nephilim, or is actually alien from outer space. If it's physically from this realm and on from this earth, then I believe no, it can't. From what I've seen, it can't cloak. Uh, it's not a actual the mind speak telepathy. That's the word I was looking for. It's their body reacting to the infrasound, because I've had two team members that got hit by this, and they went from being, well, one of the guys was a 19-year-old boy that was headstrong, that would he's a firefighter. If there's a fire out there, he'd run right into the building. I mean, for all this time, I was having to hold him back, and after this time occurred, and this was at OARK where these new team members are going. I told Thomas he better be on the watch out for this, but because this happened there, uh, he went from being a full strong, just gung ho young man to shaking and sick and vomiting, and she said, "I just got. It's just like something's telling me to get out of here." So I'm on the fence, I guess I would say, with the mind speak, and I would say it's back to the infrasound because I looked it up and listened to a lot of the reports where the big cats was doing this when like the tigers would attack people in India, and they would have the same kind of say that I was just feeling like I should have got out of there, and then got attacked by a big cat. So that's my personal opinion. Uh, that there may be different stuff that's getting put in the Sasquatch realm or whatever you want to call it as beings. So if they're actually having something cloak, I don't think it's a Sasquatch. They're dealing with something else, from what I've seen. But I'm an old hillbilly. I can learn a lot, so I just hadn't seen that for myself yet. So, what's your
Well,
opinion?
well, I I experienced something a few years back. We were down in South Georgia, and whether this had anything to do with Sasquatch or not, there had been some reported in this area down there. Actually, it was the area we went to was a camping area down there in the national forest. There'd been some guys that had reported having some encounters with Sasquatch in that area. We went down to check it out. This was back probably 8, 9 years ago or so, and we went down there on Friday night. Saturday morning, about 10:30, 11 o'clock, I started getting this nagging feeling that I shouldn't be there. And then it was just like the rest of the day, it was like something was telling me to leave. And now, and I go again, folks, to say whether this had anything to actually do with Sasquatch or anything of this nature, I don't know. Even to this day, I don't know. But finally, about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I got this nagging feeling that I just shouldn't be there, and I got up and told the boys that I was down there with that I was packing my stuff up and coming back to Gordon County. And one of them kindly, made a joke at, "What's wrong, Weaver? Are you scared?" And I said, "No, I ain't scared. I just don't want to be down here anymore." So I just got up and left. And I come back home. Well, the next week, uh, a friend of mine that lives in the area down there called me and asked me, said, while y'all were down here, did you encounter any law enforcement? I told him no, so didn't encounter none that I knew of, and I thought he was talking about park rangers or something, to start with. And he said no, said that on Sunday, now this was Saturday that I was down there, Friday and Saturday. Well, on Sunday, about 2 miles from where we were camped at, they actually found I think the girl was 14, 15 years old, had actually been murdered and dumped down there in that area. So now where it had anything to do with that or not, I don't know. But that's the only
Right,
experience. That's the only experience that I've ever had that I could even remotely relate to any type of mind speak from Sasquatch. Now whether that was it
right,
or not, I don't know. But it's something to ponder on.
right. So that's I know it. This area that I'm talking about, at the same time that he had this experience, below him, I was looking through a night vision deal, and I could see the shape of this. It would be Sasquatch shape or really large human shape below Marcus, and it would have probably been 50 yards below him off a bluff line. And after this occurred, I watched that human shape, Bigfoot shape, go off this bluff line and into the creek. Well, once it got into the creek there, it's just white because this is a night vision. It was just black and white images. And once it got into there, it cooled everything off. Well, later they pulled on around in the truck. Marcus was there, and I mean, he was just shaking all over and everything. And I said, well, it was right below y'all, this bluff line, and this bluff line where it went off. During the day, it would be hard. I mean, it would take forever for me to climb down this bluff. And this thing went just right off this bluff like it was nothing. It's not straight down, but it's 60, 70 degree angle. And at night, I mean, it just points to that. Yeah, that was a Sasquatch. But anyway, something that at that same time made Marcus sick. And like I said, he went from being gung ho and strong and everything to he was ready to get out of there that night. So we ended up packing up and canceling the investigation after that. And that's when after we'd had good sign, like I said, I looked at through the night vision deal and watched it go off the hill. So I wanted to stay to the next day and figure out what was going on. But no, I mean, your team members are more important. When he was that sick and that jittery and jumpy and well, you know the feeling, just like you was talking about right there. Got to get out of here. That's what we ended up doing, is taking him out of there.
Well, I have one of the viewers commented here. I think this is a sense we have within us, rather than coming from another entity. I can tell you, in a combat situation, I felt the same things. So you know that's yeah, that's a good point right there.
Yeah, he felt
But
the same feeling during a combat situation. Is that what you said? Your
right,
internet,
right.
right? Well, that's back to what I'm thinking. It's our own body's response that, hey, this is a flight or die situation or something, and some people may be even more responsive to it, or can feel better. You know, I mean, their sixth sense, as we call it, is kicked in, and it's our own body's way of defending ourselves and say, hey, we need to get out of here.
Right. Well, like I said, you know, the night that happened to me down there, you know, I didn't know anything about anything like that going on in that area. Uh, you know, we'd had we had some rocks and stuff thrown at us earlier in the night when we rather we'd went out for dinner that evening, came back. We had a little encounter there in camp when we first got back, where we had some rocks and stuff thrown at us. Uh, but I don't know. I just could that was a feeling that I started having that morning, and I couldn't shake it. And by that night, after we got back to camp, you know, the feeling just got stronger, and I just couldn't shake it. And I decided, I don't know what caused it, but I just got up and left. I came back home.
Right? That's basically what happened to Marcus, and we just said to pull out of there. And our other team member Neil, it had happened to him, but it would be on the opposite side from there. He's got a family farm, and it happened to him. It would be probably less than a quarter mile from where it happened to Marcus, but on the opposite side of the bluff line. And he was by himself, and he was just he couldn't get out of there fast enough, and he was the same way for over half a day. He had the same feelings and sickness, and nausea, and it just happened instant on him. And he was the one that was telling us about that after the incident with Marcus. He's like, well, that same thing happened to me.
Well, I
So,
know Blake now back, this is 2011, 2011, 2012, while we were doing a lot of the investigating down at Altoona Lake. We actually had a team member down there with us one night, and we'd had some rocks and stuff thrown at us, and now he actually became physically sick and went up and sat down at the pavilion at the upper end of the cemetery there where we go to. And he went up there and sat down in the pavilion. And I walked up and asked him, man, what's wrong? And he told me, he said, man, I don't know. He said, 15 minutes ago I was feeling fine. He said, now I'm sick in my stomach, head hurting. He said, I'm nauseated. He said, I don't know what in the world is going on. But he was trembling. We got him in the vehicle and finally left with him. He was trembling real bad. And to this day, he won't even go back down there with us. You know, if we tell him we're going back to Altoona Lake to do an investigation, he'll bow out.
right.
I mean, it affected him that bad.
You have them kind of encounters, it changes you for life pretty much. That's like I was talking about that boy Austin. And he went from not believing and having to seeing two within 5-6 feet. The one was closer than the other one, so 4 to 6 feet, seeing two of them. he changed for life.
Right, I got a viewer here saying
once you know, you can't go back and say erase that. No, they don't exist.
That's exactly right. You know, I saw my first one in 1981. I had an encounter in '84 up on Big Frog Mountain in Tennessee, and ended up getting a young blue tick hound that I had killed up there that night. Now, whether it was a bobcat, whether it was a bear, whatever, I don't know. But you know, had many encounters of these things ever since. Uh, you know, and as an old man told me here a couple of years ago, he said, I'm not a believer. He said, I'm a knower. He said, I know the things are out there, and I know they exist. And that's, you know, that's the adage that I've got about it. I know they're out there. I know they exist. So, you know, I don't have to prove it to anybody else. But the reason I do these shows, these broadcasts every week, and all this, guys, comes out of my pocket. You know, everything that I do, as far as my research is concerned, as far as these shows are concerned, uh, every bit of this I pay for, and it's because I love doing this. I know those creatures exist. I love the research, and I do the research, and I do these programs to tell everybody else that these things are real and they are out there, and to be
Yeah,
careful when you're out in the forest. If you encounter one of these things, the best thing you can do is back out, leave the area, and leave it to them.
that's
Because
right.
if you don't, you could get hurt.
Yep. And the main thing that it's grown for us, and it's just for somebody to talk. Most people don't know they've had an encounter and they don't know who to talk to. They're afraid everybody's gonna label them as kooky or off the wall, and they just want somebody to talk to a lot of the times, and that's how I get most of my leads anymore. And they go, well, I want this one thing happened to me. I want to know your opinion on it. And then it leads from there. And then once they feel comfortable, they'll tell you about everything and tell you where this happened. The majority of the time, they don't want to be on camera and don't want nobody to hear. It's all right if you tell their story like it happened to somebody else. Don't use my name.
All right, you know, I'm
It's
doing.
amazing how many times that's happened to me. they
Well,
come up and talk to me.
I'm actually in the process of writing another book right now, and that's basically what it is. It's about people that I have interviewed, I've encountered over the last half century to their encounters and their stories. And the biggest part of them don't want their names uh, put down. Most of them don't even
Uh,
want the location where they're at put down. But it's just a collection of encounters that people have had over the years.
mhm. That'll be interesting. I'd like to read it.
Well, I'm about halfway through with it. I'm hoping I've got mid March of next year deadline out on it, so I'm hoping to have it done and published by then.
Awesome. You was
But
talking
Wendell,
about
go ahead, man.
I was gonna say you was talking about the cemetery there and encounters. I've been filming. Well, me, Neil, Clint Holloway, and Robert Taylor have been filming all around about connections with Bigfoot and cemeteries for probably the last 2.5 years. And about the time I get to where I said, well, I'm gonna put all this together and actually make this show and put it out there. Something else happened, or somebody else tells me, well, I need to include that into it, and so I got to start back over and redo this whole 2-hour show here. So I hadn't got it
Yeah,
done yet.
hey man, I'll tell you what, it's really a process when you get started.
Yep,
It really is. Wendell, you got anything else you want to throw out there, bud?
that's pretty much it. I can't think of nothing else. Just everybody be safe out there. There, Sasquatch is out there. Uh, what exactly it is, this is still a debate, but the being itself is out there, whether it's human or just ape. Uh, that's still in the debate, but it's out there. So,
Well, you know, my opinion on that, and in my opinion, ain't worth a hill of beans, really. But from what I've seen out of these creatures, as far as the ape part's concerned, uh, I really believe these things they're more than an ape. Uh,
yeah,
to be able to do what they do, uh, to live the way they live, to raise their young, to carry on. Uh, I think these things are much more intelligent than what we really give them credit for.
mhm. They're very intelligent, very adapted to what uh, staying in the wild, staying hid. Uh, they use every sense that they have to function out there, and they're going to know where you're at before you know anything about them. So all I can say is be careful when you're out there and be alert.
Well, going back to the deal, and I've told this on the program quite a few times, just to give you a little hint of how intelligent these creatures are. I'd interviewed a guy a few years back that told me a little tale that he used to go up to Tennessee and camp in a national forest up there, the campground. And he said that the first few times he was up there at night, along about 10, 11 o'clock at night, once he'd got camp set up, he said he'd encountered something throwing rocks in against his tent. And this had carried on for weeks. And he told me, he said, I finally decided I was going to Walmart one night. And he said, I bought me a bucket of tennis balls. And he said, I went back up there that following weekend, went in on Friday evening, just like I always. So there's probably 15, 20 cars parked in the parking area. He said I had to walk about a mile into where I was camped at. So I went in, set up camp. He said that night, sure enough, 10:30, 11 o'clock, here is rock come hitting his tent. So he says I get out and I go out and I start throwing these tennis balls up into the woods. He said I could actually hear these things. He said it was bipedal, so you could hear them running back and forth through the woods chasing these tennis balls.
Yeah, you can definitely hear them heavy footsteps at times. That's amazing how they can be so heavy sounding sometimes, and then the other time that they move so fast and you can't hear nothing. But
That's right. But now the intelligence part comes. He said the next day when he started to leave, when he got down to his car, still cars parked there in the campground, in the parking lot. He said every one of these tennis balls that he had thrown up through the woods the previous night was lined up across the hood of his car. Now, not anybody
wow,
else's car, his car. So now
yeah,
that just goes to show you that these animals, these creatures, are a lot more have a lot more intelligence than what we actually give them credit for.
yeah. They either knew the tennis balls in his car by scent or uh, visual recognition. Somehow they put it to his car. So
That's exactly it. All right,
yeah.
Wendell, it's a little after the hour here, man. I'm gonna go ahead and close her out. Uh, I'd like to thank everybody tonight that's watched us. Hope y'all have enjoyed the program, Wendell. We really thank you for being on the program with us tonight, buddy. You've got a standing welcome to come back anytime and join us. Uh,
All right.
after y'all boys get in,
I'll try to be it back on in December when we have that follow up investigation at OART, and I'll fill y'all in on what happens with the one this weekend, and then what happens when we go back as a full team in December.
all right, man, we're looking forward to it. Okay, everybody, thank y'all for watching. Uh, Everybody, God bless. Remember, hit that subscribe button, that like button. Leave us comments. Good night, everybody.
Good night.